Finance Committee meeting. I'll open with a prayer and then we'll go into the meeting proper. So, e karakia te matanga, e te atua. Unai o tamariki, e ino atua nei ki a kohi. A whina, a toi tau. Ia mātou mahi katoa. Aki. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Now, I have apologies from the Deputy Mayor, who can't make it. And I've got apologies from Rachel Smith, who can't make it. I've got apologies from Moko, who's going to be late. I understand, John, you were telling me. And John, and apologies for you because you've got to head off in about 15 minutes. Any other apologies received?
Just sorry, Will. Sorry, through you, the chair, just confirming that we do have quorum when it is time for the mayor to depart. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. So I've listed the apologies there that I have. I don't know of any others. Any others? No response. So we'll go ahead and do I have a move and a seconder? I'll move. Do I have a second?
I'll move.
Yeah, so we got member Bruce and we got Councillor Stratford. So we'll put it to the vote. I vote yes. And can someone run through that list?
Yep, I'll do it, Chair. Chair Vucic. That member Bruce Robertson.
Yes.
His worship. Councillor Radic. I don't know if Matty's on yet. Councillor Stratford.
Aye.
Member Edmonds.
Aye.
And welcome to Member Gardner.
Aye, for me. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so we go now to item apologies and declaration of interest. We've had any declaration of interest? I didn't have any. I take it we don't have any.
None which has been raised, Casey, that you're aware of?
Through the chair, nothing that I'm aware of at this stage.
Right. If anything comes up, then the members can raise it on the items. So now we have the deputation, and Jane, I believe you're ready to give a deputation. I can hand over to you, I guess. And someone, please, I think you have a time limit there, Jane. Someone's going to time you, and they'll give you a warning.
Yes, I'll ask Casey to do that. Up to 5 minutes, Casey, please. Thank you.
So welcome, Jane.
No problem.
Thank you. Sorry, I just assumed it was 10 minutes again because we had 10 minutes.
Sorry, it is just a warning. Sorry, Jane. It's just a warning halfway through that it was 5 minutes and then 5 minutes at the end.
That's right. I probably won't need the full 10 minutes. Listen, thanks for receiving this deputation. You know, we haven't actually done one. Well, I haven't done one on behalf of the ratepayers and residents associations. I'm here for Kerikeri and Paihia districts. And we haven't come to this committee before, and I thought, Councillor Vucic, that you needed to see that we do read your agenda papers sometimes as well. But but actually the prompt for wanting to come today, what I had mentioned was the two things that I had said we wanted to talk about was not the risk so much to council around its assessment of risk and all the rest of it, but what's happening with commercial and residential ratepayers affected by COVID, particularly in the Bay of Islands. And we had an opportunity earlier in the year to put in submissions to the rates review. And at that time, we had strongly requested that the differential on commercial ratepayers be dropped and that the costs, the general rates that are covered, that commercial rates, the differential goes towards, be better spread where they are actually, where those cost centres are falling out in the community. So we had suggested that a fairer rating system would have picked up the rural, the effect of rural roading, particularly in light of the fact that a lot of targeted rates deal with the infrastructure that's connected to commercial property. So water, wastewater and stormwater that are typically within the urbanised areas. The commercial ratepayers and residential ratepayers are already paying for those items separately through targeted rating. So we did make that representation, and now we've been in a situation, second year running and heading into a summer with severely reduced incomes for our Bay of Islands households and our commercial ratepayers, and we have no relief at all from council. So I wanted to make a strong representation that you might not be looking at a risk because people are struggling and mortgaging their homes and putting every cent that they've ever made in their life back into just paying their bills at the moment. So I think it's quite probably it would be useful if our representatives looked again at the remissions policy and looked again at whether or not there's anything you can do around rate relief for commercial ratepayers in these hard-hit Bay of Islands communities. And also recognising that the rural sector has not been as badly affected, with payouts for primary products being much higher than they were even last year. So I think I've probably said enough on that. Now just moving on to stuff that's relevant in your agenda. And I can't remember where we read it, but we did pick up the auditor's report, external auditor's report, that did acknowledge some of the issues that we had raised prior to you adopting your long-term plan this year. So I will name Alec Cox because he put it forward as his individual name, and he was communicating directly with the auditor or Office of the Auditor General, because we had tried for 2 or 3 years prior to that to communicate directly with staff and deal with these issues before documents get published. So I just want to acknowledge the work that he has done, and that the auditor's report does actually confirm that they found errors and that that work was valuable because it picked up some stuff that could be corrected. In saying that, I do have to underline that it is disappointing that we have to rely on volunteers in our community to pick up mistakes that ought to be picked up in-house, particularly when you have John Robertson there as a voting member from Audit Office as well. And I don't want to go through everything that we find, and we won't do that now, but we do have ongoing questions around clarifying how we're rated. So I'll just move on to a question where that arises. So we can see that the legislation has assisted council to write off Māori freehold land debt, but we do still need, the rest of us who pay rates, still need to see how that write-off impacts us vis-a-vis distribution of that debt across the remaining ratepayers, because the spend hasn't disappeared. Obviously it's going to be picked up, it has to be reallocated, and we've got no idea how that's going to happen at the moment, and it's a significant amount of money. So we do want to see some report or some advice or clarification around how that debt write-off is going to be dealt with in terms of everybody else, and also the fact that those properties aren't going to be rated into the future. Some of them won't be rated into the future, because you've got the remissions charge policy now including all Māori freehold land with improvements of less than 15,000. And we actually think that's a bit generous. Because if you look at,
sorry, Jane.
That's right, thank you. And if you look at improvements of 15,000, if that's just fencing and property, it could actually be stock that's being grazed. And we know of instances like that, because I personally know somebody who boasts about the fact that they've never paid rates because they're running stock on Māori freehold land, and they just ignore the fact that they pay it. And you can fence in your block for 15,000, or you can manage some stock on that. So it's not necessarily abandoned land, which you also recognise elsewhere in your reports. If it's being used and there's a potential for income or benefits from it, then 15,000 might be too high to have it unrated. For fairness questions. Next thing I want to quickly bring up is that we're concerned about the fact that our water rates bill is going to appear as a one-off this year. For whatever reason, the 6 monthly wasn't done. We can't understand why meters couldn't have been read. and why we're going to end up with these one-off bills. That's going to be a concern because that means that a lot of people are missing leaks. Leaks aren't being picked up, and there's going to be a rush of people wanting to remit, parts of their water bills because there's a lot of there are leaks that won't be being picked up. Apart from the fact that there will be shocks, yet another financial shock on ratepayers, and we can't see the logic as to why that was done when people can read the meters and have absolutely no contact with householders whatsoever. Another concern we've got is this, and I've raised it before through submissions, but the allocation of 5.4 million in stormwater budget towards the Praia waterfront development. We still have absolutely no idea from council about which ratepayers are going to be charged or pay that for that 5.4 million. Whether or not it's going to be the commercial area in Paihia or it's going to be a broader catchment. And we still don't accept that stormwater is actually the right line for structures in the marine environment and on the foreshore. Stormwater in your stormwater asset management plan clearly states it's to do with freshwater landing on the land. It's got nothing to do with coastal storm surges. So we need a better explanation around who is going to be paying that 5.4 million. Racing towards the end now. We're concerned, and I'm particularly concerned about the new risk assessment around Program Darwin. It's got to be one of the most sensible initiatives council's undertaken for a long time, trying to get a good grip, a stock take on its asset condition, and being able to have information for strategic planning around your infrastructure, and that's what most ratepayers are concerned about. Maintaining essential services to their private properties and businesses, and it's a real concern that it's now got this high risk assessment, and it looks like a lot of that staff are accepting that things might not be achieved. And when you put alongside that the increase in consultant fees as well as staffing fees, it's a real concern. So we would like to see that risk assessment responded to with some really clear actions around not just risk mitigation, but getting the project on track to deliver the outcomes that it intended.
1 minute, sorry.
The results. While we are looking at it, your agenda today, this 1.9 million windfall of GST that was refunded, Councillor Vucic, where it's not clear why you would put it into an investment account rather than paying off debt when clearly the cost of debt is higher than you're going to get with investing it. And that's on your agenda today, so we want you to have a look at that. And that's in line with, we've got a policy as ratepayers to talk about prudent management of the finances that council accumulates, and it wouldn't be prudent to put money in investment when you've got a debt that could be paid off, that's incurring a higher rate. Just about out of time, so I think the last thing I'll talk about is the stakeholder register. That's all through your this agenda. There's talk of stakeholder registers and having workshops with stakeholders around various projects. The ratepayers associations are not being included in any of these lists. The last time we were included in anything was the district-wide transportation network strategy. Okay, so we're constantly badgering to be included with structure planning, spatial planning, anything that there's workshops within council. Please remember to put us on the list, and we have experts for different areas that would bring a lot to the table. Thank you.
That's
Thanks,
time.
Jane.
Time.
Are we out of time? There's no questions time left. Is that correct?
Yes, we're out of time, Chair.
So,
Would you
That's
mind
right,
if I
email
make
update.
would you mind if I make a very brief comment, Mr. Chair?
yes.
Jane, I don't ever, and the elected members don't ever get into a conversation off the back of these because we don't have the time for the dialogue, let alone a debate. But I just want to commend you and the people you represent for some really astute questions. So we'll make sure that we capture all of those and get back to you. They're really quite incisive. So thanks for your kōrero.
Thanks, Sean. In fact, I was going to request that staff get back to Jane in terms of the questions you've answered. I've answered some of those questions myself, and so has other elected members, and there's answers for that. So thank you, Jane. and you're welcome to stay and remain if you wish. On the,
Oh no, you enjoyed the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Thank you. So now we go to item 4.1, which is confirmation of previous minutes on page 12. Do I have a move and a seconder for that, please?
I'll move it, John. Thank you, Adele.
Yeah, thanks, Adele and Bruce. You're second.
Chairperson,
Any errors are noted in there, please? If someone, I haven't seen any. There are any errors? No. In that case, we'll put it to the vote. If we go through it again, I vote
Chairperson
yes.
Vusic, Member Bruce Robertson,
Aye.
Councillor Matty Radic. Matty's with us yet.
Aye.
Thanks, Matty. Councillor Stratford,
Aye.
Member Mike Edmonds,
Aye.
and Member Adele Gardner.
Aye for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Carried. Then, now item 5.1. Can I have a move and a seconder that the Assurance Risk and Finance Committee receive the report, October 2021 Risk Management Report?
Yes, I'll
Yep.
move that, John. Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce. And seconder,
Move it, John.
thanks, Matty. We have the move and the seconder. It's open for discussion. So I might ask first, Tanya, do you want to comment? And then anything you want to highlight in that report? Otherwise, I'll be taking it as read. Anything that you want to bring to our attention? And if not, I'll open it up to the debate.
Thank you. Through the chair, you'll note that the program Darwin Risk is now on the organisational top dashboard as per the decision made at the last ARF meeting. And I'd like to bring to your attention too that the Climate Change Risk Reference Group is up and running. The terms of reference have been agreed. And in fact, we've completed a risk workshop and there'll be a decision paper to you in December around how we'd like to articulate those risks moving forward. A special notice, please, on the group risk update. District services have been working on their risk register for quite a while, and we have done a few reviews around treatment and their impact on risk. And you'll see here that the risk profile for a number of risks has changed and has been reduced due to the efforts they've been putting into treating those risks. And I'd like to call that out. And we've also been making some good progress on our business continuity arrangements. Thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you, Tanya. I'll open up to the members for questions, comments.
Through the chair, Mike Edmonds has his hand raised, Chair.
Thanks, Mike.
Can I comment, or is this still question? Is this only questions or comments?
Questions, comments.
Okay, so I will make this point again that I've done before, and that is workplace bullying is prevalent in universities, lawyers' offices, councils, almost every workplace in the country except for one. Okay, and that is the Far North District Council. Now, I'd like it to stay that way, but without visibility, I fear it won't. Look, I was just reading an air accident investigation into a large airline the other day, and the major finding was it should be one of the airline's major responsibilities to prevent unwelcome cultures growing, as it was extremely difficult, if not impossible, to reverse it. And furthermore, given that the FND is doing so well, a formal treatment, or indeed the formalisation of the informal treatments in place, could be a beacon of hope for other organisations in the country that are suffering from this, and it may be useful as a template for health and safety in those organisations. So I'd like to move an amendment that reads, and that the Audit, Risk and Finance Committee be appraised of the workplace harassment risk and a high-level treatment plan be added to the Health and Safety and Wellbeing Plan and reported on as part of the regular Health, Safety and Wellbeing report.
Can I just ask Casey, do you...
Chairperson?
I'm going to send this on the chat.
Thank you.
So do I have a seconder for that motion? Well, I'll second it for want of a debate, and then we can have some comments on it.
Okay, I've said my bit. Thanks, John.
Councillor Stratford, you had a comment?
Is there some information in this report that I have overlooked to indicate that there is no workplace bullying? You started off in your corridor that you're not seeing a report.
No, I've mentioned it before whenever health and safety's come up, and pretty much the answer has always been bullying doesn't exist in the Whānau District Council, which is cool, but that's not to say that when the current well, look, it's still a risk, right? And while we may have policies and treatments in place, it still needs to be watched because it is such an insidious risk. And that's what I'm saying. It's not in the health and safety and workplace list there as being treated. So I think it needs to be treated. Or needs to be listed.
Yeah, so if I can clarify, Mike, just and but I'll just clarify first, Bruce. I see you got your hand up. So I take it you're looking at pages 28 and 29, and there's a list of all of the identified risks associated with health and safety. And workplace bullying, you're saying, is not one of those, and it should be there, given that across the different organisation, it's something that's recognised as being an issue.
Well, we've got behaviour from members of the public. That's recognised, but not from within the organisation, which is just wrong.
Yeah. So what you're saying, that should be there. Then you're giving confidence to council, essentially that it is being considered. Yes. I've got a couple of hands up. I'll start with member Bruce, and I see.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Mike, for your input. I'm just interested to know if there's any response from management about this. Mike, you have quite right, consistently raised this before, and I appreciate this is a deep dive. So this is actually a chance for us to work out whether we are comfortable not only with the description of the risk, but actually the overall rating. So I just wonder if there is any comment. Appreciate that I'm in public asking the question around workplace bullying. Is it something that we have just omitted, or it's not actually an issue for us?
Happy to assist, Chair, if that would help.
Yeah, if you can respond to that, Will.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Getting the culture right is important for every organisation. The one thing that's worth stressing is that just because something's not on the risk register does not mean that there's no work being done in that space. An enormous amount of work is carried out to get the culture right, from the chief executive through the rest of the management team, and particularly by our colleagues in people and capability. A lot is done to get the culture right, to ensure that we have a real sense of manakitanga, that we don't have bullying in the workplace. It's something which is always on our radar, but it may not appear in the risk register. And if you want specific details, perhaps my colleague Jill Coyle could assist in that regard.
So if I can ask Will a question of you, if you look on page 28, you've got the treatment progress is not planned for one of the 10 health and safety vulnerabilities listed in the table. So I think if I understand right with Mike's comments there, is that why wouldn't we list one of these as one of the vulnerabilities? It's not to say that there is work not being done on it. Just having it listed, I think, is all that has been asked at this stage. And it's not also saying that be identified as a separate risk. So, Mike, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think it's correct. So that it does come under health and safety as a risk, which we have there. So being able to identify that and see that it has been considered is more of what you're asking for. Is that a correct response? Summary of your words there, Mike? I see your hand up, and I'm asking you specifically. You can respond to that. Appreciate
yes,
that.
Yes, John. I mean, the other elected members may disagree with me, and that's okay. And if they do, we leave it off. But it is something that I would like to be visible. And I would have thought that the staff having worked so diligently to make it a good culture, and would want that little green tick on the report every month. I mean, I can't see why there would be any objection by the management and staff to having it as this as part of it, because like I say, it's an easy green tick, and I would like to know each month that it stays green.
Thank you, Mike. Now, Councillor Stratford.
Yeah, I have to apologise. I actually thought that Mike was being sarcastic and saying that we should be praised, and I was like, what the? So having read what he wanted, I do agree with him. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Well, it seems reasonable that, you know, we should be, as you say, when looking at risk, we should be aware of what all the risks are, whether they, you know, they are prevalent or not is another matter. So I'm going to then, I've got Adele, yep. Member Adele's got her hand up, so Adele.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to support this because having worked with the council in the past, I can understand why it should be on the risk register. So thank you.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say.
No other comments from any members of the committee? I can't see any other hands up. Well, in that case, I'm going to put that amendment to the motion or a recommendation that it be included in the vulnerabilities list.
Just as a procedural bit of advice.
I'll second it.
It's seconded already.
The
wording for B should start with a verb or, you know, an action word.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Casey, if you can just put it up and just so we're clear with the wording.
So this bit in red, so this bit that you see here that starts with "and," that is Mike's amendment that he's put in the chat. I might just suggest that in the red, you see that it starts with request that workplace harassment risk and a high-level treatment plan be added to the health and safety wellbeing plan and reported on as part of the regular health and safety and wellbeing report. So then the substantive would then look like that, receive and request.
Yes.
Is that okay with everybody? So are you happy with that, Member Edmonds and Chair Vucic? Does that, it's the to be appraised of, which will come as part of being in that report and well-being plan, the appraisal of.
Yep. Looks okay to me.
Look, I don't have a problem with the wording. I have a problem with the standing order on this one. I mean, basically, I made a motion. It's been seconded. It's been discussed. And while this may be a rewording, and in your opinion may say the same thing, I mean, it's not my place to approve it simply because once it's been seconded, it's no longer my motion. It's the motion of the floor.
Yep.
So look, I'm happy if all of those that are voting are happy, then I'm happy. But I mean, you know, in a way, we almost need to discuss that wording.
Yeah, and so let's do that very quickly. Wording seems to be saying what you wanted to say there, Mike. If you're happy with that, and I'll just ask any other members if that wording is okay as well in terms of what we're trying to achieve. Is there a hand up there that I can't quite see who it is?
I think Member Gardner's hands up, Chair.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to put it down.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
I think the Chief Executive's indicated he'd like to speak, Chair.
Okay. Yep. Sean.
Look, I like the intent of where you're going here. This is, you know, it's good governance to keep an eye on the super sensitive things that big organisations face. We do that with our IT security, and we do it with our financial management. Why wouldn't you do it with key aspects of personnel management? But I have to say, the wording here implies like we've got a problem, and unless you've got some information that I don't, because we're constantly watching, we don't have indications of this at the moment. And we can provide you, and probably will if this passes, a long list of things that never used to exist in our council, from whistleblower policy through to a very comprehensive recent study, a deep dive into one of our groups, just to see if there were lessons learned in any one of our groups that we could apply across the organisation. We take this very seriously. I take this very seriously, and I would prefer if the wording wasn't around, you know, a workplace harassment risk and a high-level treatment plan, unless the member has some evidence that we have a workplace harassment risk that should be on the radar at the moment and therefore deserves a treatment plan. I prefer some slightly gentler words. I'm feeling mildly offended, as you might be able to tell. I say again, if anyone has got any indication of any harassment of this type going on inside my organisation, I'll deal with it personally. And please just make clear to me what you intend by this amendment.
There is no intent. I don't have any extra information, and I don't know whether anybody has. I made that point in my preamble. But I do believe, given that what the rest of the country is going through, that this needs to be here.
And Sean, I can appreciate your concern about the wording. Yeah, it sounds terrible, but I think in the debate that you had, and you've heard Member Edmonds and you've heard the others express their view, and you heard my sort of points of clarification. And it's just to see it visible on the list as one of the vulnerabilities, and therefore there is obviously work that goes with it as well. So the wording, while it may seem harsh, is not indicating that we are responding to anything internally, and this is open debate that we're talking about here. So we're being open and frank. It's just to say that we should include that and not miss it off. That's how I see it.
Thank you, Chair. I think in terms of clarity, we've got the meaning and captured the words by Casey's addition.
Well, I'm going to put that to the vote. We've got to move in a seconder. So all those in favour, if we can have the list up, I would be in favour.
You put that list up, please, Casey. Member Robertson.
Aye.
Councillor Radic.
Aye.
Councillor Stratford.
Aye.
Member Edmonds.
Aye.
Member Gardner.
Aye.
That's carried. Now, substantive motion we've got there, and I take it there are no other comments on this item. Do we have any other comments? We are now debating the substantive motion report. No? All right. We have to move in a second. So I'll put that to the vote then. All in favour? We put the list. I say aye.
Member Robertson.
Aye.
Member Radic. Councillor
Aye.
Radic. Councillor Stratford.
Aye.
Member Mike Edmonds.
Aye.
Member Adele Gardner.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Now we move to item 5.2, and that's on page 36 of my agenda here, that the Assurance Risk and Finance Committee received the report, Council Financial Report for the period ending 31st of August 2021. Now, do I have a move in a second for that?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you. Matty moves it. Do I have a seconder? I'll second it.
John. Bruce.
Yeah, beat you to it, Bruce. That's fine.
That's okay.
So just, do we have Janice there? Janice, do you want to highlight again? I take it as, you can take it as much as being read, but if you wish to highlight anything in there that the comment first, I'd like you to do that, and then throw it over to the committee members.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Really, the only two highlights that I would put in are we are showing a large amount of other income in this report, and that's because of the external funding that's moved forward to this year. And my only other comment would be around capital. We haven't yet loaded all of the roading budgets. We were waiting for the outcome of the Waka Kotahi allocation, which we've just received, so they will be addressed now that we know what's being allocated.
Yep. Thank you, Janice. And I'm pleased you highlighted that, because that was one thing that sticks out quite well. So comments, got the comments from Councillor Stratford.
Thank you. Janice, what page is it? Somewhere in here, we've got roading and footpaths is over at 129%, and wastewater down 285%. Must be on that capital sheet. I wondered if you could explain that. Where is it? It is page. Sorry. I've written my page numbers down.
50.
Must be 50 now. Oh yeah, roading and footpaths on page 50.
Through the chair, Councillor Stratford, that's the comment I've just made. We've got spending in the roading and footpath space, but we haven't loaded the budgets in capital yet because we were unclear as to what the actual allocation for Mokakatahi was and what it was for. So they will be loaded, so that will correct when we do the next report.
Thank you, Janice.
And then in page 51, wastewater, 285% income up. Was that from the DIA funding?
Yes, that's the first comment that I made. So that's the income that's coming over for Three Waters reforms.
Thank you. Councillor Stratford, please just got a vote.
And then I also just wanted to point out that because I keep hearing comments about how big our debt is, it was higher last year. So, you know, a year on, we are 9.5 or 9 million less in debt than we were. Thank you.
I have one question, and I'm sure others may have questions, and that is, and I'm not sure who this is directed to, Janice, and that is on page 41, and we see a comment being made. DIA funded 50% of the total Three Waters reform budget up front, but a large amount of this was not required. Further claims for funding have been delayed as a result. Maybe the C wants to comment on that, because I would hope that with that funding there in the Three Waters reform and in particular Project Darwin, I would have thought we'd have plenty of use for that funding, maybe updating our asset.
Confirm that's a timing issue, Janice?
I believe so. Andy may want to comment, but I believe this is the funding that was attached to the work programme that had milestones attached to it as to when we could access the money. And obviously some of those milestones may have moved out slightly now, given the delays that we're currently experiencing.
I'll just add to that. Yes, the DIA have pushed back the timeline for delivery of those projects. We're still aiming to progress them as quickly as we can, but because of COVID, they have pushed back the end date.
Great, thanks, Sean and Andy. I was hoping for a comment like that. So we're doing everything we can. Good. Any other comments from the members? Everybody's happy with that report? That's great. Yeah, nods there, so that's great. So I'll put it to the vote then. If we bring up the list, I obviously vote in favour on this one.
Just give us that list, Casey, please.
You there, John?
Yes, Matty, sorry, you were going to make a comment?
Yeah, just before you put it to the vote, just Janice, is the Provincial Growth Fund expenditure involved?
In the report, yes, that's shown separately on page 52,
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe.
What about Unahi Road? Is that going to be Tass Hill?
Sorry, I can't answer that question, Councillor. That's an Andy question.
Through the chair, Councillor Radish, yes, I've provided you previously information on Unahi Road, and yes, it will be sealed, and it is a separate line in this year's LTP. Thank you.
So when's that going to happen, Andy?
I need to come back to you on a date when it's going to be done, but it will be done this year during the
All
summer construction period.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Maddie.
Chair
and thanks,
Vucic.
and yeah, so we carry on with the voting.
Member Robertson,
Aye.
Councillor Radic,
Yeah,
Councillor Stratford,
Aye.
Member Mike Edmonds,
Aye.
Member Adele Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you. So that's carried. Now we go to item 5.2, I believe. I'm just throwing my agenda around. 5.3. That's the revenue recovery report. Can I have a move in a seconder? Insurance risk and
Happy to
finance committee
move.
receipt. Thank you. That was Councillor Stratford, was it? Or was it Matty?
Councillor Stratford,
And seconder,
Oh, I will, Adele.
Adele. Thank you, Adele. Member Adele. So any comments on this one? Revenue recovery report.
Yep. My
Sorry,
hand's
Chair.
up.
Are you asking me or?
Well, sorry, Janice. Yes, I should give you the opportunity again. I'll take it as read, and any highlights there that you may wish to bring out.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple, just to say, total arrears is moving downward still. It's lower this time than it was this time last year, which is good news.
Right.
Following the snap lockdown into COVID level 4 in August, it's pleasing to see that the work the debt management team's done has resulted in a 47% increase in direct debits being set up. So that's good news. And just to point out the pamphlet that has been created by the team that can be handed out at the counter to try and assist those who used to pay by cheque to be able to pay by other means. So that's a positive from our team.
Thank you. So was it? I think you had your hand up. Thanks, Councillor Stratford.
Yeah, just I want to say how oh my gosh, I'm so tired. It's really awesome the work that the staff are doing to assist people in moving over to EasyPay. I know that it's a troubling time for people financially, but people should make contact with council as soon as possible, as soon as they start to financially struggle, to set up a manageable payment rather than putting their head in the sand. And I just want to commend the staff. I know it is hard work, especially with some of the ones that are possibly going to be going to mortgage demand. I know that gets really stressful, not just for the person receiving it, but yeah, I like the tables in the back. They're looking a lot better from my point of view.
Thank you, and I'll ask Taylor to respond to that.
thanks, Councillor Vucic. I just wanted to thank Councillor Stratford for her comments. Janice puts a lot of work in with the staff to try and strike that balance between professionalism and empathy. And I think that balance is being struck and it's paying dividends for all of us. Thank you. Thank you.
Any comments specifically to the report that, before I put it to vote, that, is that your hand coming back up, Will? No. Any comments specific? No. Then I'll put it to the vote. I vote yes.
And Member Robertson?
Yes.
Councillor Radic?
Aye.
Councillor Stratford?
Aye.
Member Mike Edmonds?
Aye.
Member Adele Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you, carried. Item 5.4, move in a seconder for the action sheet update September 2021.
Just for members' information, Chair. But there's nothing. We have got no items to be updated.
Down and had a look, there's nothing there, so we don't need to do that. So thank you. That I realised we had a big session this morning.
Sorry. Do we still want to accept it, even though it's empty?
Yep. Yes.
We'll do that then. We'll put it to the vote. So I vote yes.
Oh, sorry, we just need a mover and a second there, Chair.
I thought we did. Sorry, we didn't. Oh, well, I'll move it then. You have a second.
And
Councillor
I'll
Strachan.
second it. John.
All going. So let's put it to the vote. I shouldn't be listening to interruptions. So I vote yes, going through the list.
Yes.
Yep.
Aye.
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 Is everybody?
Yeah.
Carried. Okay, so what I was going to say is thank you. We're going to going to move that we go into public excluded for the reasons that are given here.
I'll move it. Come on.
Thank you, Matty. I'll second it.
Okay.
And we'll put that to the vote. So I vote yes.
Aye.
Member Robertson,
Aye.
Councillor Radich, Councillor Stratford,
Aye.
Aye.
Member Edmonds, Member Gardner.
Thank you. Carried. So
Aye.
thank you, Adele. So now we the public can be alive. I can ask Councillor Stratford to give a closing prayer and thank everybody for attending.
Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te ata whai o tō tātou ariki, o ihu karaiti, me te aroha, me te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairoa tapu, ake, 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 āmene.
Amen.